Brothers and sisters, let me tell you, this is how valuable you are. I think the universe would hide you in its pockets so that you would never be scratched and never receive a ding or a dent.
I'm preaching you just like I would have in the old days, just minus a few characters in the story.
There's no mention of God or Jesus.
Can I get a Darwin?
Prepare yourself for a journey of discovery. The book has been written, the speeches have been done, and now it is time to go between the pages with Jerry DeWitt and Bobby C. Today's date is October 7th, 2016. This is Hope After Faith. My name is Bobby C., and once again, joining me as always is my amazing co-host, it's the one and the only, Mr. Jerry D.
Bobby C.
Hey, Jerry.
You know, I think technically you're joining me.
I think I am. Maybe I am.
You are joining me this time.
Yeah, we're joining you this time because for those of you who haven't watched the news at all in the last week, we are actually evacuated right now because Hurricane Matthew at this moment is running up the coast of Florida, making a beeline for Savannah, Georgia. So we had to evacuate, and there was no way to go north. Everything from Atlanta to Charlotte and everything was full. We couldn't find a way to go north at all. So we decided we'll do one better. We'll head west. So we are currently sitting in the dining room of the DeWitt residence. Yeah. So thank you very much for taking in a couple refugees.
It's totally our pleasure.
We appreciate that.
I actually felt good about the experience until you were describing your evacuation procedures, which has now made me realize that because there was no way to go north,
right,
is the only reason that you went west. So, whatever.
Fiddle, a little second fiddle over there, huh?
Yeah, that's right, little fiddle.
Well, no. The reason I say that is because we had several of our listeners that contacted us and said, "Hey, you can come stay with us up here." One's in Atlanta,
right.
Another one is in North Carolina,
right?
And we're watching the news, and everybody's going to Atlanta, Charlotte,
right.
Greenville, and it's like.
To all the popular places.
Yeah, and there's no way we're looking at the news, and I-16 instead of being east and west is now all west.
Yes.
And there's just no way to get out.
Right.
So, I mean, I appreciate the people who made those offers to us, but there was literally no way for us to get out and go north.
I'm a horrible co-host. You were actually trying to make all of these people feel better and not feel like losers because you chose us over them, and I blew it. I apologize. I do feel bad.
You feel bad?
I feel bad that I spoiled it. You, like a good host, was trying to make the listening audience feel good. You were expressing your true sentiment about how important they are to you. About how important they are to you.
Right.
And I just blew it. I screwed it up.
No, you didn't.
In my selfishness, my self-centeredness, my desire to be important, I messed it up. And so I apologize again.
Look,
to you.
I wish y'all could see his face.
Family, and to their family, and to all that are far off, even as many as the Lord our God shall call.
No, but I do want to say thank you to everyone who sent out messages to us and gave us many, many options on places to stay. But unfortunately, there's really and truly, there's no way to get there. And Jerry and his wonderful wife, Kelly, said, well, you can come stay with us.
Right. In that case.
So we jumped in the car and said, hey, we could go west because everybody's going north.
That's right. Everybody wants to go north or go west to some place more popular.
Yeah. So I was in town and the lady earlier, and the lady said that every hotel from here to Timbuktu is full.
Right.
You know, because they said, over 1.5 million people have evacuated from this thing.
It's been a lot of people.
Yeah. And
you ever think about how much toilet paper that is?
Toilet paper?
See, the reason that comes up is because for some reason,
No,
every
Jerry.
time I hear evacuate, I think evacuate,
Yes.
which is, another
Yes.
procedure
I understand.
of exiting, another exodus, if you will,
Another exodus.
another parting of,
Right.
of the seas. And so I just think, all those people left a lot of toilet paper
They
behind.
did leave a lot of toilet paper.
They didn't
yeah.
take it with them.
We didn't bring any
So
with us.
suddenly toilet paper that's going to be used for another group of people is going to be used by this 1 million and some odd people. I mean, it's just the resources all change around. It's okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Felt like it's an important issue. Had to bring it up.
Apparently, it is an important issue. We're not going to be brand loyal and say Charmin or nothing like that.
Oh, no.
But I never thought about how much toilet paper that would
just,
be.
Don't fixate on the toilet paper. Just think about the resources.
The actual
that are now-
evacuation. Got it.
Yeah, that are now changed. The hands in which these resources are going to be used is now
Mm-hmm.
different. I mean, suddenly what it speaks to, Bobby, it's just how blessed we are to live in this
Blessed.
country.
Okay. Yes.
How blessed we are to live in this country, to where 1 million people can just say, I'm going to leave all of my stuff here and go over there, and there'll still be plenty of stuff for all of us.
That's a lot of stuff.
That's a lot of stuff. Just think about that. Suddenly there's still enough stuff. So we've got so much stuff right here that all of these new people can come in, and we all still got plenty of stuff. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. There's no shortage of stuff.
No shortage. I mean, it's not like all of a sudden, you and Ashley show up and you're like, damn, we're going to have to drink less water.
Right.
It's
Damn.
like, okay, we'll have to half flush because now we have to split our flushes.
Y'all scoop half the water out the toilet now.
That's right. Only flush half.
Only flush half.
So, or take turns.
Right.
Two trips to a flush. We don't have to do that because we live in such a blessed time. I think it may be that God's blessed America.
You think?
Possible.
Wow. We just lost half our listenership.
If they're paying attention and read the title of the show, they would see that was a huge, long, drawn out, but yet somewhat genius way
to segue.
Segue into the show.
Yeah, because the topic of the show, now that we are almost 9 minutes into the show, is Amerigod. This was a concept that Jerry brought up to me last week and said, hey, I got this great idea. And it's Amerigod. And I put the subtitle, Do American Christians All Worship the Same God?
Yeah.
But you wanted to take it totally different and go back to,
just all
thousands
Christians.
of years ago.
Of course. I've always got to mess it up and make it more complicated.
More complicated.
Yeah. Before we go that far, let me say this. I had someone ask me, a listener a couple of days ago, if we spend any time preparing for our shows.
No.
Now, what was cute to me about that was it could have went either way, because it could have been like, if I say, of course we don't, the person would be either like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Y'all don't spend any time talking about the show. No. Oh, y'all are savants. This comes so natural. Or because actually she didn't respond in either direction, which led me to believe what she might have been thinking was like, oh, okay.
So we're not important enough for you to do research.
Or that explains it.
Yeah.
That makes sense. As I suspected.
Oh, we get it now.
Yeah. Now, okay, I got it. We would do it, but we're very, very busy people.
We are. And most of the times we pick a topic that we know we're going to be able to talk about.
That's right.
It's a topic that doesn't really require hours and hours of research in order for us to have the conversation.
That's right.
And I'm lucky enough that I have a co-host that is just a natural born conversationalist.
I thought I was your co-host.
You are.
Oh, you're talking about me.
I'm talking about you. That was a compliment, Jerry.
A compliment.
Yeah.
I've heard of those.
Yes.
I read
That's
about
a
them
compliment.
in a book once. Mm-hmm. I haven't ever received
Don't ask
them.
me how to spell it, but it's a compliment.
Yeah.
And I'm fortunate enough that I have a co-host that's able to have a conversation that doesn't require tons of research about a topic. which I'll be honest with y'all, which is why I chose Jerry. I'm just saying.
I'm starting, see, I feel like that could go either way as well. I'd be like, one thing I never have to worry about is Jerry bringing up anything that takes smarts. The great thing about Jerry is anything he says is crap, and I can handle it.
And he makes me look very intelligent.
There you go. You're welcome.
Yeah. So we're going to get to our topic tonight about Amerigod, but I just want to let you guys know Ashley and I we are okay. We are safe and sound in the DeWitt residence, while Savannah is going to be getting hammered by maybe a Category 3 hurricane within the next 24 hours. So, to everyone who has wished us the best, and even those that have sent us prayers, I guess thank you. I don't know what they're supposed to do, but we have those people too in our family that send us prayers. So thank you for that. So Jerry, on to our topic of Amerigod.
Amerigod. So, back in 2012, and we had to research that.
Yes, we did. We spent a minute and a half.
That's right.
On research.
Getting that year
for
down.
This week's topic.
That's right.
Yes.
So, back in 2012, I was traveling to some convention, must have been off in the West somewhere. In my, the movie of my memory, I see myself driving through the desert. And I must have been because I was listening to the radio. So apparently I had no phone signal or something. I'm listening to the radio. And Glenn Beck, the prophet Glenn Beck, is on a roll. Man, he's on a roll. He is on a roll. And what he's upset about is that the president is working towards legislation. I think it's all probably ultimately part of the Health Care Act, Affordable Health Care Act. And what's going to happen is in particular, the people most offended, Catholic institutions that actually hire employees would have to supply them, would have to pay part of the health insurance cost, which could be used for birth control.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Glenn Beck Mormon?
Exactly.
So why the hell does he care about what the Catholic Church does?
Exactly. And that's exactly where this begins to go.
Okay.
So he's ranting on, and he begins to say these words. He says, every God-fearing person needs to join together. And then he begins to list the God-fearing people. He's on a great rant. He says every Jew, every Muslim, every Catholic, every Protestant, every Jehovah's Witness, every Mormon. I'm sure I don't have in the proper order, and he probably added some that I'm not thinking of. But he lists this really long and diverse group of religions and denominations and classifies them all under the heading of
God's fearing people.
Of God-fearing people. And for the first time, I'm sure I've heard that referenced in different ways, but for the first time that really, really stuck with me because I thought, wait a minute. Let's back up and let's just say, since Catholics were the ones that were most offended at that moment, if you really followed the theology to the letter, could Catholics and Protestants really claim to be worshiping the same God? Now, it's kind of close. It's really, really, really close.
Right.
Protestants oftentimes, though, are going to disavow Catholics because they're going to add into that mix, well, yeah, we're all worshiping Yahweh, Jehovah of the Old Testament, Jesus, the Son of God in the New Testament. But the Catholics throw in Mary, and the Catholics treat the saints in a more reverenced way.
They deify them.
They deify them.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, to the Immaculate Conception and all these things along Mary. So that's close. They're close, but there's still some major differences between Catholics and Protestants. Now, we can go even further, though. We can say, well, can you really say that Catholics and Jews worship the same God? Now, the Catholics would say we worship the same God of the Old Testament, sure.
Right.
Which the Jews would not call the Old Testament,
Right.
But do they really? Because in the Catholic Godhead, you possess the Trinity. So the Jew is not in any way going to be able to accept the Trinity.
Right, because they don't accept Jesus as the Messiah.
That's right. And so they don't accept Jesus as the Son of God. So they definitely don't accept Jesus as the third person of the Trinity, of the Godhead. Exactly. So is that really the same God? Well, no, of course it's not. It's not even close to the same God. Well, maybe it's just the political climate, but could you get Muslims and Jews to say that they actually worship the same God? That might even be closer than Jews and Catholics. Possibly.
Yeah, because the Islamic faith has the prophet Muhammad.
Right. Which is just a prophet, is not part of the Godhead.
Not part of the Godhead.
Not part of the Godhead. They
so
don't
that
see
may be why.
Jesus
Yeah.
as part of the Godhead, just as the Jews don't.
Yep.
So they see Allah as the one true God, and could probably, under certain circumstances, agree that that's awfully close. But now we add into it Mormonism. Is there anybody in any of these other groups who would say that Mormons actually worship the same God as the Jews, or worship the same God as the Catholics or as the Protestants? Definitely not. Anybody who studies Mormonism is going to say, no, this is a huge plethora of deities within Mormonism. Elohim being just one God out of many gods, to the extent that when you die, you graduate to become a God. So, and then you could look at Jehovah's Witnesses and make all that questionable fact. Now, the reason that I go down this long trail to get here is that somehow in American politics, they are all able to claim they worship the same God, even though their theology might differ greatly from each other.
That's true.
Yeah, so they're able to do that. So then my proposal is that there's actually a new God in town.
Ah, okay.
And this new God is Amerigod. Somewhat unspoken, somewhat unrecognized as being a brand new entity, but it is the byproduct of all of these people letting down their theological walls in order to unify politically. Water down the nuances of their theology in order to be able to create one movement, one voting bloc within the political landscape.
So they make up the religious right.
They make up the religious right, and the only way they can do that is they have to have a banner underneath that they can be underneath and all stand behind, and it's this right-wing concept of what God looks like. And it can't be particular to Catholicism, just like it can't be particular to Jehovah's Witnesses, or be particular to Jehovah's Witnesses, probably its own kind of case, but to Mormonism, obviously, Mitt Romney, or to Protestants, or to whoever else. It has to be a version that will allow all of these people with very, very, very different views of God to join hands and say, okay, we're all kind of pointing at the same person. We're all pointing at the same deity. We may all translate a little, but we're all pointing. Now, the reason that I find this interesting is because whenever you have a deity, the byproduct of having a deity is a form of worship.
Right.
So if we accept the proposal that all of these people, right-wing religious side of politics, are worshiping this new invention, unspoken invention, Amerigod, well, if that's true, then there should be also a new form of worship that has come out of this.
Yeah, because it's a new type of God.
It's a new type of God, so there should be a new ritual, new form of worship, and by worship I mean devotion, a new way of devoting yourself to this Amerigod that supersedes all of the nuances of all the individual devotional lifestyles within all these other types of religions and denominations within those religions. And it does exist. And what it is political activism. This is the only way that you can put a bumper sticker on the back of your Southern Baptist, Pentecostal, Catholic, whatever truck that says God and guns.
That's true.
You have to have a God that the byproduct of which is a form of life devotion that allows for the mixing of all of those concepts. And so there is. So political activism is the new form of worship. It is the new devotional lifestyle of the followers of Amerigod. It's even more important to them oftentimes to go to the voting booth than it is to go to church. It's more important to support and fight over political stances than it is to actually promote theological differences.
Yeah, because they sure don't mind standing up and fighting over whatever what they think Trump has said or what Trump believes. You know, it's funny because they say the two things you never talk about is religion and politics.
Right.
Right. And now here we are, we're putting the two together.
That's right.
And we're showing how the two can come together and create their own deity and their own style of worship.
That's right.
And you're right. It is easier for them.
That's right.
Wow. Yeah. I never thought of it that way.
So here's how. Which God can Donald Trump and Billy Graham's son? What's Billy Graham? Franklin Graham. Which God can both Billy Graham and Donald Trump, if Billy Graham's even following Donald Trump, I have no idea, or say the Christian college that he went to,
Liberty University.
Okay. Which God could the supporters of Trump who go to Liberty University and Donald Trump, which God could they both worship? Now, we could probably step back and say Trump probably doesn't really truly worship any, but which God would okay those people at Liberty University following Trump? Well, it's Amerigod. It's Amerigod is the only God. This hodgepodge of religious and political thought melded together to try to preserve some semblance of a conservative worldview that creates this Amerigod. That's the only deity that all these people could share together. The only one, because they can't share the members of Liberty University and Donald Trump can't share the same God who's against divorce.
No. Yeah, no. No, Donald Trump, no.
Right. They can't share the same one who is for feeding the poor and living a shoeless life for the betterment of humanity. There's just a lot of things they cannot share, but there has to be something they can share. And what they can share is Amerigod. And they can justify their overlooking of Trump's weaknesses, religious weaknesses, for the sake of their devotion, for the sake of their mission, for the sake of their political activism, which is now more important than honesty, purity, compassion, charity, these things.
Right. So the God they share is the homophobic, right? What is it? Homophobic, and there's one other that he's against. I had it in my head and it left me.
Yeah, that's okay.
Which is normal for me.
Well, and so the reason I think that's important.
Oh, the abortionist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's really the key issue.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really, really sincere people, sincere Christians in particular, that are swallowing a lot that they normally wouldn't for the sake of Trump because of the abortion issue. Because that issue is more important than anything else in their devotion.
Well, he don't know if he's pro-life or pro-choice because he said both.
Sure. Right. So what occurs to me is oftentimes the strength of a religion. There's two ways to come at religion. Oftentimes the strength of religion is its heritage, particularly like in Catholicism, where they would look all the way back to Peter being the first pope.
Right.
And they're like, there's got to be something up to what we're doing, because look how long it's lasted. Look how much success we've had, those type of things. Now, of course, you can come at it another way, like Pentecostalism comes at it, that, hey, this is all about individualism, and I don't care what God told you yesterday. God just told me this today, so this is the freshest, this is the newest. So, of course, you can come at it either way. But if we're going to look at Amerigod and the worship of Amerigod, we have to say, is that true? Is this new? Is this a new idea? Well, we can pretty well prove it to ourselves in a thought experiment pretty easily. Back in the book, In the Magic of Reality, Richard Dawkins is explaining speciation, how one species develops into another species. And he's got this great illustration of where he, puts a person in a time machine. And the question is, how far back can you go, making periodical stops, and breed successfully? If you take a modern human being, how far back can you go and breed successfully and have offspring? Well, whenever you go back far enough, just far enough that you cannot breed successfully, then scientists would say, well, that's the beginning of a new species.
Right.
That's where the change.
That
that's
makes
the
sense.
Major change.
Right.
And so that means then, no matter how it looked as it was morphing at that moment, there's enough of a change to say, nope, this is different. This ain't what that was. It may have come from that, but this ain't that no more. So my question would be, let's take Franklin Graham or the people from Liberty University. Let's put them in the time machine and let's send them back and let's let them have theological intercourse with anyone. Let's go to John Calvin.
Mm-hmm.
And
It'd be totally different.
Let's see if they can have a successful offspring of a conversation.
There's no way.
There's no way.
No way.
There's no way whatsoever. And so what does that say? Well, that right there tells you that they are worshiping two different gods. Right off the bat. The God that John Calvin would claim he was devoted to would be so different than the God represented by our time travelers from today that they would not even recognize each other. So that means it's a new God, a total new concept. Whether you've named it that way, whether you've claimed it to be that way or not, it is something new that has over time evolved in order to survive in the situations that it finds itself in.
Well, I think it's safe to say that most people today, that if they're a Christian, and if you're a Christian listening to this and I offend you, I apologize. But I think most Christians today make up their own concept of a God to begin with.
That's right.
It's the God that agrees with them.
Right.
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 And most of them walk around with this concept in their head of this made up God. And if you are in disagreement with that particular made up God, there's something wrong with you. Yeah. Instead of acknowledging, hey, I made this God up in my own head.
Right.
They hear the voice of God, but ironically, it sounds just like them.
Right. And I agree with you. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. I don't want to, we try to be less offensive here than anywhere else, that we can be. But it is a fact that because all of this relationship with these deities exist purely within our own mind, it can't help but ultimately look a lot like us.
Exactly.
Because of where it's housed and where it exists and resides. So with that being said, if you have a new God and you have a new form of worship or devotion, then you have a new hierarchy. You have people who represent this deity better than other people represent this deity. And so I would claim that particularly for the conservative right, I guess they're all conservative is on the right, but for the evangelicals in particular, that Amerigod has a prophet. And Amerigod's last prophet, who revealed to us the way of Amerigod, was President Reagan. Because this is who is quoted continuously.
Oh, from the, yes. Okay, I got you. Everybody loves Reagan.
It's all about Reagan. How did Reagan do it? What's Reagan do? How Reagan, to the point that trying to pull undecideds, even Secretary Clinton is having to say, in some ways, she's more like Reagan than Trump is. You know,
now that's funny.
Yeah, it is funny, and so this is kind of where we're at right now.
Right. So now we have this made up God, and the Messiah or whatever is Reagan.
Right. The last prophet.
The last prophet. Yeah, that's
the
what
last
you said.
Spokesperson for this Amerigod, and that's really, if you go back and you study on this convergence of Christianity in particular with conservative politics, it really kind of begins, strangely enough, with President Carter, but it was amplified and was souped up by the time that we get to Reagan with it, and it becomes a full-fledged force that now has to be dealt with the way that we have to deal with it. It literally splits the country down the middle now. It's not an influence, it is half of the machine at this point now, which is what's made the Trump succession so absolutely amazing. The people that I know who was supporting Trump at the very beginning, I said, there's no way, this will never happen, there's no way, because the religious right will not support Trump, this will not happen. But so here's what's so interesting. Try not to get too technical or too boring, but if you study particularly denominations, you'll watch denominations hit their peak, and then something will come out of the denomination that takes the more successful elements of the previous denomination, emphasizes it, and becomes the next thing. But you can see that it's a descendant of that.
Yeah.
For instance, the Assemblies of God denomination struggles to really stay influential, but a fair amount of the charismatic movement comes out of the Assembly of God, and it's because they took kind of the better parts or the more successful parts of the Assembly of God movement denomination and supercharged it, emphasized those parts, and just got completely out of the institution, got out from under all the rules and regulations. Said we can still speak in tongues, we can still have our music, we can actually do modern day music, we can do it better if we don't follow your strict guidelines. Well, isn't that what's happening right now with right-wing politics?
Sure.
Is that the followers of Amerigod have evolved and have said, we really don't have to stay as limited to the Republican Party as what we once were, because this isn't about the Republican Party. This is about Amerigod. This is about this concept of what the world would look like, what the United States in particular would look like if Amerigod had its free reign. That's what this is about.
Which is scary as hell if you think about it.
It can be very scary, absolutely. Of course it can. Yeah, it definitely can. So that's just I know I've elaborated on some parts and been a little long-winded on others as well, but that's the general concept of what I'm seeing right now of how people who normally theologically would have such diverse opinions because of their diverse backgrounds are able to join together to do what it is that they're attempting to do.
So we've laid out a new God, a new deity.
Yes.
We've laid out his prophet, its prophet, I guess I should say.
Right.
Its prophet,
right.
Ronald Reagan.
Mm-hmm.
But with any new deity and any new prophet, you have to have a doctrine.
Mm.
So what is the doctrine?
Well, I think first and foremost is the devotion of the political activism that you have to, there's a anti-abortion. I don't know how easily you could lay out. Probably somebody could, and probably somebody will after hearing this. individual doctrines within the larger scope of its theology, but we know it when we see it. We know that it is an attempt to maintain. I mean, that's the conservative.
Yeah.
The base of the conservative philosophy is to maintain, to conserve, to maintain ideas that now maybe relate back closer to the 50s. You know, same-sex issues, equality issues, women's rights issues, productive rights issues. I think this is all parts and pieces of the theology, you know, and probably someone, you know, smarter than I can actually craft it into doctrines.
Right.
And it probably even already exists somewhere else, but I think that's a big part of it. It's this very conservative, and it's not fair to just say conservative, because there's also it plays well with the prosperity gospel.
Okay.
It plays well with the idea of success and achievement and money. You know, all of that works with it, hand in hand. So it may ultimately not reside only in the tabernacle of politics. You know, it may spread out a little bit, but it does seem here's what's obvious to me. Okay, this is where I think it could get fun. There's also another religion. Okay, there is another religion within the world.
Brand new one?
Not a brand new one, but an ever-evolving one that is actually very exciting. One that we all belong to one degree or the other. Mm-hmm. And we all worship to one degree or the other. Doesn't necessarily have a deity, because it's more similar to the religion, the non-monotheistic religions.
Right.
The polytheistic religions. Polytheistic religions. Whatever word I'm trying to create there, trying to make a new word. And it's pop culture. Pop culture is the religion of the day. That's the reason why pop culture is generally diametrically opposed to whatever other god is being worshipped that represents some form of conservatism. Because pop culture is younger and more progressive, more forward, more liberated, where the other god evolves out of a desire to conserve and to take back and to regain and those kind of things. And so within Amerigod, you have one invisible deity that any religion can take claim of, but the opposing religion is pop culture, which deifies celebrity. And so you've got thousands and thousands of demigods.
Thousands of them.
Thousands of demigods. And it has its own style of worship, which is through its music, which is through its entertainment, which is through its activism as well. You know, that exists as well.
So what it comes down to is anything can be a religion.
Yeah.
Right?
And
I mean, people
right.
people can be religious about football.
Yeah.
People can be religious about baseball.
Yeah.
You know.
If I had a time machine, I would go back however far necessary to make our curse word not religion, but supernaturalism. It's not nearly as catchy. Or even superstition.
Yeah, because religion can be in so many aspects
religion can be so generic. Now I understand Webster's dictionary version of it is going to be, you really going to take a picture of me in my hat with all scruffy, and
I am.
I at least need to put my glasses on. My glasses make me look a little younger. Too late?
No, got it.
Oh my gosh.
No.
I need to button my shirt.
That's
Bobby,
great.
let me put some pants on. That makes for good radio. Me pausing, making stupid faces. So religion.
I'll edit all that out.
Oh, that's all good. That's fine. So religion. We know what we mean in most cases when we say it, unless we're wanting to argue, or unless we're being argued with. You know, if somebody says, well, the secular movement's a religion, we'll be like, oh no, it's not a religion because a religion takes a deity, and we ain't got no deity, you know. But then on the other hand, we'll quickly say, you know, well, they're being religious, they're being, you know, they're acting religiously about that. That's a, you know, so. Words are our tools.
Yeah, but there's a lot of things within the secular community that is religion-ish.
Do you really want to take me there?
Well, I mean,
is that what you want to do?
We're talking about it.
We are talking about it.
There are many things within our community that is religion-like.
Yes.
I mean, we've talked about this not on the air, just sitting on the couch talking.
Right.
And we're both in agreement that, I think it was last night we were talking about that.
Yeah.
That there's a lot of things that are religion-ish within our community.
Yeah, yeah.
So could secularism be considered a religion?
So let's get naked. You want to get naked for a minute?
Yeah, I'm with you.
I mean, normally we're not together when we get naked, so this might be a little more.
I might
awkward.
embarrass you, but
yeah, it might embarrass me
with my hair. I got so nice. My hair is so nice. I might embarrass you. With
right, you could embarrass me.
Yeah, I could.
And yeah. So here's what I think, Bobby.
Sorry, I didn't mean to open up a can of worms.
No. I'm being careful. I'm not going to go too far in that direction. Here's what. I'll never forget. I was sitting at the dining room table. I'm gonna give a shout out to my friend Dwayne. Dining room table now 100 years ago, and me and Dwayne and his sister Joetta, we really, well, I felt like they were the two smartest people in the world. And I felt like by association that made me the third smartest.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. And
by association.
And we were just at the right age, at the right situation. We just knew the answer to everything. And mainly what it was we weren't rednecks. All right. Now, Kelly will tell you real quick, I'm a whole lot more country than what I claim. And that's pretty obvious, you know. But we just, and I'm not criticizing rednecks. I'm just saying we lived in a world of rednecks and we weren't one of them.
Right.
All right. And by that I just mean we weren't outdoorsy country people. We were more inside TV. This is pre-internet, pre-cell phones, where now everybody's less country because they're on the internet and on their cell phones. But we weren't hunters. We didn't go out and fish. We didn't, Yeah. And so we didn't fit in. We were just nerds, And that put us in a position of having to make ourselves feel better about not fitting in. And you do that by being superior, You don't make yourself feel better by going, I guess we should learn how to fish. What's wrong with us if we don't like fishing, And
instead you go, look at those dumb asses over there fishing when they could be watching Star Trek.
That's exactly right. They could be watching Star Trek, but instead they're out there getting ear cancer, from the sun. So that's kind of what we were doing, And I don't know what it is about me. It's probably some form of self-loathing or something, but we're kind of just having this love fest with each other, and we're, and we're so smart we're doing this. And it just occurred to me. I mean, this is before swaggered, before preaching, maybe before swaggered, but before preaching for sure and different things. It just occurred to me, I was just like, I bet everybody says this. I bet everybody does this. Because I was from a small family. I mean, excuse me, large extended family, but small, immediate family. And so there was just a lot about how people interact and things that I just had yet to be exposed to. And so it just hit me though. I was like, I bet them rednecks is sitting around doing the exact same thing, saying the same thing about,
They do.
And I thought, so just because we say that doesn't mean we're doesn't mean we're definitely smarter. Just because we're saying it, just because we feel smarter don't mean we are smarter, you know. And the reason for that long preacher-esque story is the same thing is true about whether or not we're religious. Just because we say we're not doesn't mean we're not. And just because we say this is different doesn't mean it is.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the bottom line. Just because we say it's different doesn't mean it is different. Because when you and I talked about this, one of my favorite things is people be like, oh, but now that I'm an atheist and people know I'm an atheist, the people who love me, even though I'm an atheist, they love me for me. Okay. Well, if you got the cojones, test it. Go on Facebook today and tell all of your atheist friends who accept you for who you are and love you regardless that you have found Jesus again.
Ooh. I wouldn't recommend that.
And let's just see. Now, undoubtedly, probably some of them will. But I can tell you with my experience with people, what I think will happen is that the same percentage of atheists who will still be your friends and still love you and not even try to jack you around with this is probably about the same percentage of your Christian friends who are still friends with you, even though you're now an atheist.
Yeah.
Because as much as we want to be special and as much as we want this to be the thing and for us to be different, people are just people. They're just people.
Yeah.
You know? And so that's my very depressing take on that. I told you should have let me wash my hair before we did the show.
No. Y'all, Jerry's hadn't had a shower. He's all scruffy. He hasn't trimmed up his beard. I mean, he's wearing the same clothes from Saturday. I mean,
today's Friday. That's bad. I only own one shirt, Bobby.
We horrible Georgians came and invaded his house.
Hey, listen. I think the appearance is mutual. Because we go to a restaurant last night right after y'all get here.
Yeah.
And I'm actually standing in the front of the line. And the waitress looks at us, or the hostess looks and says, y'all evacuees? Like, no.
No, we from here.
Yeah, we
always
look
look this bad. Yeah, that was pretty bad.
That was bad.
That was bad.
And what's really worse is y'all didn't catch it. I was the only one because I was the most vain of the group. So I'd be like,
well, my thing was, no, ma'am, I just look like this. I'm sorry.
Look like this all the time.
I just look like this.
Yeah.
What's wrong with your face? I don't know.
Jesus. Trust me, if I knew how to fix it, I would.
Yeah, if I had the money to fix it, I'd lift this, cut this, tuck this. But unfortunately, this is what you're stuck with, honey.
This is it.
Now, we've spent probably the last 45 minutes talking about the whole concept of Amerigod.
Only 45 minutes?
Yeah.
I felt like I rattled on for a week. Oh
no,
God,
you didn't.
I bored myself.
No, it wasn't boring at all. But we talked about a new deity called Amerigod. It's Prophet Ronald Reagan, and we touched into a little bit of the theology of it. But as a listener, I would be sitting here going, okay, that I understand that, but what does that have to do with hope after faith?
Oh, yeah, that's great.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'll ask you that same question. What does recognizing that there's an American God have to do with the whole concept of hope after faith to someone who's new to atheism or is poking their head out the closet looking at atheism? What does today's topic have to do with the hope after faith concept?
I have no idea.
All right, guys, we want to thank you for joining us.
No, it goes back to a point that I distracted myself from, and it is the power of legacy.
Okay.
The power of legacy and the power of revelation for religion. And so we start with legacy. If you look at, I
got him, yo.
I'm going to be real. You ready?
Yes.
It's like if you're heartsick over an ex, which is natural.
Sure. You listen to mixtape after mixtape. Oh, yeah.
But over time, you kind of get out of the funeral mode because at the funeral, everybody talks good about the dead person. Mm-hmm. So you're in the funeral mode of the dead relationship, and all you can think about is all the good stuff that you shared and that you won't have anymore and all of that. But over time, you get out of the funeral mode and you're like, that dude sucked.
Right?
He was mean.
Right.
Wasn't no good to me.
You slip back into reality.
Yeah, wasn't no good to my kids. We never had no money to even buy groceries. He was a bum. And over time, I like doing different voices. Can you tell?
And you're good at it too, let me tell you.
But
You can tell you've done an audiobook. Yeah.
Hey, Smalley did all those other voices.
You're quite professional on that microphone over there.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
So
if I could just get him to get closer, it'd be okay. But
you want it a little closer? Is that a little better?
It's okay.
So yeah, you're quite professional.
You can't get the two of us together in the same room.
No, it's a mess. It's a mess. There's something about seeing your pretty face, Bobby, throws me off.
Yeah, no, especially
I wish this table wasn't so wide so you could feel my foot, but.
You let me feel your foot later. Anyway, continuing on.
So, eventually you get out of funeral mode and you start easing back into reality. All right. And part of that easing back into reality is remembering how things actually are, acknowledging how things actually are. Okay. So if you're in transition and you're only remembering the good stuff and you're feeling like there may actually be some truth. There may be some authority. There may be some understanding. There may be some value that you no longer are making love to theologically, by having a different belief system or having doubts or whatever. Then remember this, that this really isn't even the God of the Bible that most likely you've left.
Right.
It's not the God of John Calvin.
Right.
It's not even the God of the Apostle Paul. It's more than likely, depending on your age, depending on your situation, it's more than likely Amerigod or some evolving version of Amerigod that you have actually divorced, that you're actually free from.
Yeah, because I think the God from back then would be extremely pissed off with the Amerigod today.
Depending on what versions, depending on where you wanted to start and stop the time machine. That's the tricky part. It is speciation. It is an ever-evolving concept. And it evolves to adapt.
Yeah.
And it adapts to survive.
So
or adapts and survives.
So understanding that it's not the God of the Bible that they're leaving, that it's this made-up concept of whatever God that church or denomination wanted to create in their own minds and then spew out of the pulpit like it's truth.
Right. Should bring.
That may make that transition a little easier because you are able to recognize so if I'm Baptist and I go to a Methodist church, they have a different God than a Baptist does.
Right. That's right. And then what it eventually will point towards is, just as you brought up, you really have your own God.
Yeah.
You really probably, what you've really probably divorced and that you really, really, really miss is your own individual version of Amerigod that you no longer have. And that's like giving up, your own personal wizard, or your fairy godmother, or your rich uncle that one day was going to pass on whatever it is that gave you hope, gave you comfort. The reality of it was an individualized, personally conceived concept. Mm-hmm. And it rode on the back of this culturally generated Amerigod, more than likely. But it's still nothing minus nothing is still nothing.
Nothing, yeah.
And as hard as it is to accept, your ex-lovers are nothing.
Yeah.
And the sooner you come to grips with it,
the better off you're going to be.
The easier it is, the better off it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And the easier it is to move on, the easier it is to move on to better things.
To find a new love.
Yeah.
There's plenty of Amerigods in the sea. or
Drowning.
something. Yeah. There's plenty there. I think that's part of the transition, because another quick note with that is it gives you confidence and keeps you from being as intimidated in the face of that side of our culture, because they just come at you so hard. I mean, they're calling you 85 times a day, telling you how much they love you and how much better off you were with them and how much better off they were with you, and, and those kind of things. And of course, obviously, I'm trying to make an analogy of going on Facebook, like just the other night, Pastor Penny, that I passed the DeQuincy Church on to, she was posting about, she posted a meme that was saying God could not bless a country that murdered its children.
Oh, so she's talking about abortion.
She's talking about abortion.
Yes.
And this goes right back to the main message. I mean, the main message at one time of the Baptist was baptism.
Sure.
Well, the main message of Pentecostals and the offshoots of the charismatic movement was speaking in other tongues, was the baptism of the Holy Ghost, the Holy Spirit. So there's a main message. Well, a big part of the main message is about abortion right now from the political point of view. And so when I saw that meme, I'm now to the point that I can look at it far more objectively than I ever could before, which then generates thoughts about that might not have been there before. Because when the breakup first happens, there's so much pain, there's so much anger, that you see the meme from your ex-lover talking about God can't bless abortion, or a country that supports abortion. You're so jilted and so hurt that you're like, there ain't no God. There ain't no God. There ain't no God. I mean, that's your first reaction,
Mm-hmm.
I caught you with that other woman, I mean, there ain't no God. It ain't that way. There's all of this. But over time, your emotions settle down, you heal up, and you see the meme, and you say back in return, okay, but could Amerigod bless a country that killed its native inhabitants? Could Amerigod bless a country that promoted slavery? Because now you're being realistic. He calls you up 3,500 times. You finally break down, answer the phone. What? He says, oh, I love you. We got to be back. And you'd be like, are you even going to pay the phone bill? How is it that you're able to call me? Because you used to not even pay the phone bills. You know what I'm saying? You're able now to come at it from a more confident and stronger point of view, which you need in this day and time in our culture because it is so predominant.
Yeah. Well, you had mentioned Pentecostalism, and before we end this week's episode, I got a couple emails that I want to read from listeners who are definitely on board with you getting a little deeper into Pentecostalism.
I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
I want to do that.
So what is the wrap up?
For me, the wrap up goes back to people are people. We is one. And people are doing and making up and promoting whatever they feel like they have to in order to get what it is that they want. That's just kind of the bottom line.
Yeah. People are people, and they're gonna do whatever they have to do and use as a coping mechanism for whatever they're going through at the time, whether it's a made up God, whether it's whatever it may be, to help them through whatever hard time.
Sure.
It's them being people.
It's them being people. And the fact that Amerigod has evolved and come into being and come into predominance, that's just the natural, combined outcome of thousands and thousands and thousands of different people working with their own real lives, feeling intimidated, feeling in many ways left out. You're always going to feel left out from the future whenever you're focusing on the past, but it's a natural thing that is happening that we now, just from this one precious hour's worth of podcasting, recognize that they don't even recognize about themselves. They don't even know they're just being people. They don't even know that what they're doing is actually pretty natural. Mm-hmm. This is what you do. Trump goes to predominance and you have to deal with it. You have to adapt your theology. You have to adapt your devotion to deal with that reality. And so, all in all, what it does for me, in a really strange way, it takes the pressure off. It takes the pressure of some weird sense of perfectionism off of me, to realize people are just being people. I don't expect as much out of them. I is one, so I don't have to expect as much out of me.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, I've been thinking these last couple of weeks, and I know that's a scary thought for a lot of people.
I was waiting to see if you was going to say it or if I was going to have to say it.
No, I'm more than willing to throw myself under my own bus. Thank you.
Oh, this chair's so hard. My butt is broke. Oh my God.
I was thinking that, and I want to run this by you. And as you were sitting there talking, the thought entered my mind again. I want to see if maybe you think it's a good idea that at least one time a month, or whenever you feel, that we take a segment of a show and we make that like a life coaching minute.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Right.
That'd be fantastic.
And you pick whatever it is on the life coaching aspect, because that's what you do outside of the show. You're a life coach for other people.
Right.
And it's another way for our show to help even more people.
Right.
Maybe take 15 minutes of the show or however long you feel you need. And that is a life coaching or mentoring time frame.
Sure.
For
absolutely.
someone. Because I think the one thing that people are liking about this show, and we see it in emails and we see it in Facebook messages, is they really like the fact that I think someone called this show therapy for them.
Right.
Right. So, which is what we wanted anyway.
Absolutely. What we always wanted. That's exactly right. Wanted it for ourselves.
Yeah.
And just wanted to do it in front of other people.
Right. So it can become therapy for them. Yeah. So the show is doing exactly what we intended for it to do.
Right.
So why not take and make this show go a little further, and we'll just continue to let the show evolve into whatever it evolves into.
I think that would be fantastic. And with that being said, I'd like to propose an idea as well.
Okay. Yeah, we'll just do it right here on there. Go ahead.
That's what you just did to me.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm just being an ass.
I would like from time to time for us to add a little bit of music, a song that we'll pick out around certain parameters. That I would like for us to then talk about, and I would like for the song to be something that reflects something that is part of the devotion of the other religion we were talking about, which is pop culture. Mm-hmm. So secular songs that are at the same time, for lack of better words, spiritual, that reflect humanistic values, that reflect progressive values.
Right.
And talk about how it motivates and shapes the cultural outcome.
I think that's a good idea too.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, folks, we know that we didn't have a Stump the Preacher last week.
Yeah, we know.
And we didn't do it this week. But let me tell you why we didn't do it.
Tell me why.
This week.
You know I wanted to do it so bad.
Y'all, Jared, listen.
It makes me nervous. It makes me nervous as heck.
Well,
man.
Yeah, but the reason we didn't do it this week, and we could have, we could have done it.
We could have.
But the reason we didn't was because we always want to make sure that we're taken as being honest.
Yes. Whether we are or not. We
at least want people to think we are.
Right.
And in an effort to make sure that we were completely honest and there be no doubt about that, we decided to not do Stump the Preacher, because one of the great things about Stump the Preacher is Jerry doesn't know what's coming, right?
That sucks.
Right. He hasn't listened to any voicemails. He hasn't seen any lists. He doesn't know.
Sucks.
And being that we're sitting right here at the same table across from each other, I didn't want there to be any doubt about whether or not you prepared.
Right.
So we will be back over Skype or whatever we figure out how we can get it to work next week. And I'd rather do it when I'm not sitting directly in front of Jerry. That way there's no doubt about whether or not we've cheated, I guess you can say.
And I'll second that. I'm glad that's the way it worked, because since we're both here, we had to move the studio equipment into the dining room, where normally I have a room designated that's on the back side, so that I can get really, really loud and not disrupt any neighbors.
Yes. And we're sitting awfully close to the hallway outside.
Yeah.
For the neighbors.
Yeah, I don't want to disrupt.
And your neighbors will be coming over and knocking on the door asking if you were okay.
That's exactly right. They'll be like, what is happening? You getting murdered by a Baptist?
Okay?
That's what's always so funny to me. The Pentecostals and the Baptists don't like each other in so many ways. And I can't tell you how many times somebody says, oh, I listen to you preaching. It sounds like a good old Baptist preacher. I'm like, what did you say? You kiss your mama with that mouth?
I'll slap the taste right out your mouth.
Slap the Holy Ghost right out of your head.
I've heard some Baptist preachers, especially some evangelists, come in and tear the roof off the place.
Yeah, I know. No, I'm just being,
you'll never hear them speak in tongues because, they're Baptist.
Yeah.
But I've heard some traveling evangelists come in. Look, I remember this one time, and we're going to eventually get to closing. I was probably, 14, 15 years old in Midway Baptist Church. And, we had an evangelist come in. We were having, revival for a week, and we had the same preacher come in every night for revival.
Right.
And the first night he came in, he brought in a fishing pole. Right?
Mm-hmm. Fishers of men.
And hanging off the end of his fishing pole as bait was one of the small pocket New Testament Bibles. Right? That he had hooked, and this big old hook through this entire Bible. And what he did was, don't look at me. Don't look at me. I didn't do it.
What?
Right? But it's like this massive shark hook, and he's taking it all the way through all the pages of this Bible. And that's his lure.
Yeah.
Right?
Is the word.
Right. So, and he's sitting there and he starts tossing this Bible out into the congregation, not thinking, hey, dumbass, there's a hook.
There's a big ass hook on the end of
right?
this thing. Everybody's like, whoa.
Look, people were ducking, and it was the greatest thing. And you're right. He was talking about being fishers of men and how you use the Bible as a lure, and you bring them away from the dark side with the word, right? But he didn't think about the concept of there being a very sharp barbed hook
that is
on
hilarious.
The end of this fishing pole, and he keeps throwing it out into the congregation, reeling it back in like he's reeling in somebody, and people are ducking. And it was funny to me to see people duck the word of God in church.
It's
right.
That's excellent.
But it's just funny because we were talking about Baptists and hearing preachers preach the roof off the place, and I remembered that old guy coming in with that fishing pole.
Funny.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
They were scattering like a...
They were running from the word of God.
That's funny.
In the Baptist church.
It was
really great.
Funny. Well, us Pentecostals would tell you they've all been running from the word of God in the Baptist church. That's another story.
Well, so we're going to do, I promise you guys, we're going to do Stump the Preacher. I promise you it's going to happen. Like I said, we just didn't feel comfortable doing it here, sitting here. Jerry, we had a couple emails, and I wanted to read these emails to you. I know you don't go into our Hope After Faith podcast at Gmail.
Not unless you send me something.
Well, because that's where the voicemails come in and all that. Yep. This one is from someone named Aaron. It said, for Jerry, You were asking whether or not we wanted to hear you tear the Pentecostal church a new one.
Yeah, and I phrased it that way, didn't I?
You did.
That's so rude of me.
I finished listening to your audiobook, and I appreciate your respectful tone towards your old Pentecostal family. But what I really appreciate about your podcast is your honesty and your openness. So I think you should feel open to criticize what you think is worthy of criticism. Maybe there's a balance to be had. Are you worried about coming off as an angry atheist?
Yes.
For me, anger is a really new concept. I did not allow myself to feel anger as a Christian because I didn't think Jesus wanted me to feel that way toward any of his children. Now that I'm not of that belief system, I am coming to terms with the feeling of anger, and it's kind of new. But I think it's important to acknowledge that anger is healthy, justified, and that expressing it doesn't need to be destructive. I would love for you to bear all about your feelings for the Pentecostal church. I think you are perfectly capable of being angry and critical and civil and reasonable. So why not? Thanks for the therapeutic podcast. Really enjoying it. It's helping.
That's beautiful.
Aaron.
That's excellent.
So
that's one.
That's one. The other one said, this one is from Dennis in Memphis. Said, Brother Jerry, yes, yes, and more yes, as the request for lessons on Pentecostalism. I would love to hear an in-depth and detailed podcast about Pentecostalism. I would like to learn how different it is than Assemblies of God, which you spoke about tonight, as well as the current modern flavor of charismatic. My granddad was an Arkansas Pentecostal. Not the snake handling kind, but most certainly waving hands in the air, yelling and screaming. I'm not lying when I say he'd pray in his sleep.
Sure.
As a former Southern Baptist, I dabbled in charismatic when it was emerging in the early 90s as the new and anointed brand of Christianity. We had churches around town called the Happy Church. Preacher is no longer a preacher. The Vineyard, and a biggie known as Christ the Rock, that had its fair share of controversy. Christ the Rock's preacher has been seen from time to time on TBN. So, Brother Jerry, tell us. The more details, the better.
Excellent.
Your pal, Dennis in
Yeah,
Memphis.
I love Dennis. Dennis is wonderful.
So we are getting emails from folks saying, yes, please do a show on Pentecostalism. And I think we should do that in the very near future.
Sure. Well, you know what we could do is we could do a series again. And
I'm pretty sure that could be a 10-part series. But
yeah, well, and instead of maybe just doing them back to back to back to back, we could just spread it out and, do one and then several weeks later do another one, but keep it all part of the same series.
Right.
That would be cool.
So there you have it, folks.
Wonderful.
I
love it.
We will do another series.
Yes, that'd be fantastic.
And we'll do it on Pentecostalism.
That'd be great.
And that means I don't have to talk much.
like you've been talking much at all. The last several episodes, you hadn't hardly said anything. It's been just me running my mouth. Once again, get me in trouble with Kelly because she thinks I don't let you talk.
I'm Ed.
You're not. Oh, my God.
I'm Ed. Ed don't talk. Johnny does all the talking.
No, but you're not Ed. You're Johnny, and I'm Ed. It's your show.
Right, because it's called Hope After Faith because it's my show.
That was your idea.
Look, y'all believe that if you want to.
All I know is we need to laugh more. We've been serious for weeks. We need to laugh more. We need to lighten up, have a good time. You're bringing me down, Bobby C.
I bring you.
You're bringing me down.
Look, I look in the mirror and I bring myself down every day. I understand. If I had to look at his face, I understand.
Look, I can tell you the secret to feeling better about that. You just need to turn the mirror. If it's laying there horizontal, you need to make it vertical so you see more yourself. Then you'll feel better. At least that's what works for me.
Yeah, because changing the mirror is going to change the way you look.
No, I'm saying so. But I'm trying not to be too dirty, but trying to be funny. So you see,
how's that working out?
More of yourself.
Right. That's not a good thing for me. I'm using a hand mirror, okay?
Yeah.
I'm using Ashley's makeup mirror.
Yeah, I just like myself so much. I now fix my hair looking into my camera.
Yeah, on
my
your phone.
so I can get it right next to the hair I'm trying to brush.
That's it.
Yeah. No, I want us to laugh more. There's all kind of changes coming up. Can I talk about Patreon for 1 second?
No, please.
Okay. That was a mixed signal.
You got that, didn't you? I was like, no, please.
I did. See,
yes, go
we're
ahead.
going to have
please.
fun, and then later on you're going to press charges, and I'm going to try to explain to them how I got permission.
He said,
be like,
he said, no, please.
Did he say no, or did he say please? Which one was it?
He said both of them.
He said no, please.
That's right.
Okay.
No, please.
No, please. That means for me, when I say no, please, I mean don't beg. No, please. Oh, gosh, that was a stretch, but I made it. Okay.
Should be tired.
Yeah. So if you're one of our patrons, then hopefully you've watched our last video. I need to get the word out. I promised Paul that I'd send some emails and so forth. We really want to make some major changes. Day jobs are just so consuming. So many things have been going on in the DeWitt home that are now different, making logistics even more complicated than they've ever been. The bottom line is, and I can't do it without your permission if you're one of the patrons, is instead of having a Wednesday and Sunday message, which I've actually had some people confess to me here recently since I brought this up, that they don't even listen to the Wednesday and Sunday messages, particularly the Sunday messages, because it feels too churchy for them to listen to something that's dedicated about Sunday.
See, that's what bugs the hell out of me. I'm sorry.
Just saying, it just shows how individualized everybody is.
I'm sorry.
You know, and so now you've got me all messed up.
No, please.
I'm not trying to figure out a way how to fix all that stuff. Anyway, I was doing my best Carl Pearson there for a second. I love Carl Pearson.
Don't you love it when he has to explain it?
Yeah, when nobody knows what it is. Yeah. They're like, if that's such a good rendition, you wouldn't have had to tell me who it was.
You wouldn't have to explain who that was.
Yeah. So what I would like to do is instead of focusing on Wednesdays and Sundays, what I'd really like to do is I'd like to do one really nice higher end video a month. That is something that will be shareable, something that you patrons will immediately want to share, give out, spread around, and do some good. Now, we'll fill in the gaps with Paul and I will still do at least one gaming video a week, and I'll still do my little vlogs, blogs, whatever these things are supposed to be called, as often as possible throughout the week, and probably still slip in a message here and there. But I want your permission to be able to actually work on something. And it's the logistical side, but it's also the creative side. Trying to do something every Wednesday and Sunday, and then something almost every day, and then there's just not enough creative energy and time within me anymore to make it worthwhile, to make it something that I'd be proud of, something that I would hope you would be proud of, and that you would then share and cause our Patreon community to grow. So I think if we just funnel all these efforts, or as much as possible, to one major outcome, then I can really be creative with it and have something worthwhile. So I say all that to say, I need your permission. I need your permission to do that.
As a patron.
Yeah, you are a patron.
You got my permission.
Well, thank you.
You got my vote. I think that's a brilliant idea.
Yeah, we won't, we're always naked on Hope After Faith. We don't want to do anything that would cause anyone to withdraw their support.
Right.
Because we need the support. Because our primary function, if you don't know it, is phone calls, emails, text messages, Facebook messages with people who are in transition. And all of this takes away from the standard way in which we would make a living. Because we don't punch a clock, we're not 9 to 5, then every hour we spend, every minute literally, Paul and I both spend away from the ways in which we make a living, literally makes less of a living.
Right.
And so the money from Patreon truly is important. It's not extra. It's not going in the bank. It's not part of retirement. It's not paying for a boat. It literally pays bills.
Sure.
And as it is with all of us, I know it's the same way with y'all. So, I'm chicken. And I don't want to just make this big move and everybody just go away and us have to start over. So I need you to continue at your level of support that you're at and tell me it's okay to do what I want to do.
Well, you got one vote already.
Thank you, sir.
There you go.
And Joe voted yes. She voted yes. So I got 2 votes.
See, there you go.
I just need 4 more, and that'd be all our patrons.
So y'all get to it. All right. Well,
thanks for humoring me.
It is always fun to sit down and have a conversation for those of you who have allowed us to share in an hour and a half to 2 hours of your life every week. We feel very fortunate that you would allow us to do so, and understand that we do not take that for granted. It's not something that we'll ever take for granted. So thank you very much for sharing that part of your life with us every week. We hope that we can always provide a program that is going to be both educational, but also entertaining. And as long as you guys continue to listen, Jerry and I will continue to talk.
So it's really their fault.
It's your fault. So.
This is on you.
That's right.
This exists in the world because of you.
That's right. So if you want to follow the show, you can follow the show on Facebook at Hope After Faith. We do have a private group, a closed group for those people who want to come into that group and have conversations with like-minded people. Maybe you're still one of those people poking your head out of the closet, just kind of glancing at atheism, see if it's something that you're willing to step out into. And you have questions or concerns, go to our closed group. There are many, many wonderful people in that group that would help you with your journey. And Jerry and I both post in there as well. So, and that is the Hope After Faith Listener group on Facebook. Just type in Hope After Faith Listener and click join the group, and Jerry or I will add you to that group. Also, we're on Twitter at Hope After Faith on Twitter. And if you want to email us like these last couple folks did about Pentecostalism, and you have a email you'd like for Jerry to have, because they never, that's Hope After Faith. That's Hope After Faith podcast at gmail.com. Hold on. There's something wrong with Jerry's mic.
You know what's beautiful about my life?
What's beautiful about your life
is that I don't go into the account to read it.
And everything's for you.
And you have to read them.
I know, it's great, isn't it?
That's awesome.
That's it. It's like, here, Bobby, read this greatness about Jerry. Yeah. So if you want to send an email for me to read about Jerry, send it to Hope After Faith podcast at gmail.com. I'll gladly read it, for Jerry. So thanks again for hanging out with us. It is always a pleasure. We really do love you all. We hope that you have enjoyed this pre-recorded show, with the evacuation and everything going on. We just couldn't do a live show. So we hope that you have enjoyed this pre-recorded episode. So without further ado, we are going to close this week's show as always with a song called Last Prayer. It took me a minute.
Good job.
It took me a minute.
I saw it, man. It was working. That was like trying to reach something on top of the refrigerator. Last Prayer by Chris Beeland. You can find Chris's music at beeland.bandcamp.com. That's BELAND. And we do dedicate this song to the memory of Samantha Bannister. Hashtag Team Tiny Dancer Forever. So for Secular Media Group and Hope After Faith, until next week. Be brave, my friends.
It's lonely when you fade away in a lifetime. And it's lonely when you're out in space with no lifeline. And slowly then you turn around and you notice the length and the time when your heart stops beating. Oh, why won't you come settle down? Stop wasting your time and your mind going on believing. No, this won't change. Lord knows you know I can't tell where I'm going, to heaven or falling in hell are my predictions. I only speak what I have heard, and the sound of your words can do my soul while my soul is here just bleeding. You know my love, it won't hurt. Stop wasting your time and your mind going on believing, oh, this won't change. And you're gone away, and you're gone away, and you're gone away, away.